Hey everyone, welcome back to JarDev. So I finished up the visual novel Aokana 4 Rhythms Across the Blue, the Switch version that I did a review video of a couple of weeks ago. Overall, I liked it. I don't think it's quite as good as some visual novels I've played recently, like World End Syndrome and Raging Loop still stood above it for me as better visual novels I've played on Switch. But having said that, I did finish up the whole thing, so it was clearly interesting enough for me to put in the time. In the first impressions video I did, I looked at howlongtobeat.com, and that said average for completionist was about 60 hours. I think I did it in about half of that. My Nintendo Switch thing says played 25 hours or more, which I believe is like 25 to 30 hours. There's like 3 games on my list that say played 25 hours or more. So yeah, I think 25 to 30 hours is probably pretty accurate. It's a shame the Switch doesn't have very good time tracking. At least it's got something, but it's not quite as good as Steam, unfortunately. So yeah, I'll guess about 30 hours to finish the whole thing. That was all the routes. So there's 4 main routes to the game, and technically 1 badge route, but the badge route takes like 2 minutes to finish up. So sort of counts, but there's no like extra CGs or anything for that one. So the way the game is structured is it's split up into 8 chapters or parts, and the first 6 chapters are the same for every character, and then near the end of the 6th chapter you get a choice, and that's the only choice that affects what ending you're going to get. So the choices we saw in the first impressions I did, any choices in the first 6 chapters, or the first 5, don't have any bearing on the story at all. So basically, if you want to do all the endings, when you get to that actual choice at the end of the 6th chapter, just make a save there, and then keep going back to that point. That's how I did it. And so the choice is basically yes or no. If you say yes, you're locked into that girl's route. If you say no, basically another girl comes up to you, you get a yes or no choice. Say yes to her, you're locked into her end. Say no, you get the next choice, and so on. And that's not a bad way of doing it, because basically the order that you get the choices in is the order you want to finish the routes. It doesn't really matter, you really can play it in any order that you want. But I definitely found finishing Asuka's story first explained a couple more things to me that the second story didn't. And then the final story would not have made very much sense without having done Asuka's story first. So there's sort of an order you need to do it in, sort of not. And so after you make your choice at the end of the 6th chapter, you get 2 more chapters that are specific for that girl, that route you've chosen. So technically there's 14 chapters, because you've got the 6 general chapters that cover everybody, and then you get 2 chapters more for each girl. The story was fine. It's slice of life / sports. In this world of people with their flying shoes, there's a sport called Flying Circus, which always makes me think of
Monty Python's Flying Circus.
It's a bit of a weird sport, but you kind of get into it as you're playing it. You become quite familiar with the rules of this made up sport. It's quite a simple sport, but fairly unique actually. But like I said, it is mostly slice of life. There's a couple of like small mysteries. You get a couple of twists throughout the game, but there's nothing very big thrillery or mystery-y like the visual novels I mentioned earlier in Raging Loop or World End Syndrome. Very slice of life. And it's fine. I obviously didn't have to pay for this game. It was a review copy given to me, and so I didn't have any like investment in it because I hadn't paid for it, but I still put in the time to finish the game. So that obviously meant that it was at least interesting enough to get me to finish the whole thing. It's so reasonably priced that I think it's definitely worth it. The art looks so good. The voice acting's great. I played most of it with the sound off, I will admit. The translation is actually phenomenal. It's slightly localized, so you get a lot of puns that actually make sense in English. They've been adjusted to actually make sense for English readers, instead of just being like Japanese jokes that fall totally flat to English readers. But they didn't go so far with the localization to like change everybody's name, like some localizations, Ni no Kuni. So really like the perfect balance between actual translation and localization. I think Over the whole thing, I saw like 2 or 3 spelling grammar mistakes. There's a lot of words in it, so that's really not bad. I've seen way worse. I did have a couple of technical issues. I noticed when I was playing handheld, occasionally when I pressed A to advance text, it would advance 2 text boxes instead of just 1. So whenever that happened, I would have to press left bumper to bring up the text log so I could see what just happened. I did notice that that didn't happen when I was playing docked mode. Whenever I was recording footage for it, only happened in handheld. And the only other technical issue I came across was sometimes when a character sprite would change, like change from like smiling to laughing or something like that, the whole screen would like flash white and then it would change. Very minor issue. It probably happened like 10 times over the whole game. And there were also a couple of times when pressing A seemed to cut animations off, or like animations would come in way too fast or something. Just a couple of technical things. Shame it never had a patch while I was playing it. But overall, it's like, I think it was $30 US, and it took me 30 hours to finish it. If you're playing with sound on and you're listening to all the dialogue, it can probably get up to like 50, 60 hours. There's a lot of time in it. It's a decent story, beautiful art. I think it's a pretty decent investment if you're looking for a nice visual novel on Switch. There you go, those were my final thoughts and review of Aokana. Thank you guys very much for watching. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys later. Bye!